My name is Corporal Dmitri Kovac, and I've been a soldier of the Astra Militarum for 4 years, 3 months, and 17 days. I count every single day because each one I survive is a minor miracle. They say the average life expectancy of an Imperial Guardsman in active combat is 15 hours. I've beaten those odds 247 times over. I don't know if that makes me lucky or cursed. Probably both. I wasn't always a soldier. 4 years ago, I was a farmer on an agri-world called Verdantis Prime. Decent life, all things considered. We worked hard, paid our tithes, attended mandatory prayer sessions. My family had worked the same plot of land for 6 generations. I was supposed to inherit it, marry my childhood sweetheart Elena, raise children who'd work that same soil. Simple, predictable, safe. Then the draft notice came. The Imperium has quotas. Every world must provide its tithe of soldiers to feed the endless war machine. Our planet's number came up. 10,000 able-bodied citizens between ages 18 and 35. My name was on the list. There's no appeal process, no exemptions except for the wealthy who can buy their way out, or the nobles who are exempt by birth. When the Imperium calls, you go, or you're shot for desertion and your family loses everything. I had 3 days to say goodbye, 3 days to pack my life into a regulation duffel bag, 3 days to hold Elena and pretend everything would be okay. She cried the entire last night, told me to come back to her, made me promise. I promised even though we both knew I was lying. Nobody comes back from the Imperial Guard. You serve until you die, or until you're too broken to fight anymore. Either way, the farm boy from Verdantis Prime was dead the moment that notice arrived. The transport ship was a nightmare. 10,000 conscripts packed into a cargo hold designed for half that number. The smell alone was enough to make you vomit, sweat, fear, waste. We had bucket latrines and 1 meal of nutrient paste per day. The journey to the training facility took 3 weeks. 7 people died during transit. Disease, mostly. Their bodies were dumped out an airlock without ceremony. First lesson of the Imperial Guard. You're not special. You're ammunition with legs. Basic training was on a moon with twice standard gravity. They said it would make us stronger. It made us miserable. 6 months of drilling, shooting, marching, and getting screamed at by drill sergeants who seemed to genuinely hate us. We learned to field strip a laser gun blindfolded, learned to dig trenches, learned to fix bayonets and charge screaming at targets, learned that individual survival didn't matter, only the mission, only the emperor, only victory or death. They broke us down systematically. Everything that made us individuals, civilians, human, they stripped it away. Your name became a serial number. Your dreams became irrelevant. Your family became a liability that could make you hesitate. By the end of training, I barely recognized myself. The farm boy was gone. In his place was Guardsman 2847 Delta 7, a cog in the Imperial war machine, disposable, replaceable, expendable, and absolutely terrified of what came next. We were assigned to the 203rd Cadian Regiment. They'd been fighting on the eastern fringe for decades, needed fresh bodies to replace casualties. We were those bodies. 2,000 of us shipped out on a troop ship that smelled like death and recycled air. During the journey, veterans would tell stories, horror stories about the things they'd fought: orcs, tyrannids, chaos marines, each story more terrifying than the last. I thought they were exaggerating, trying to scare the new meat. I was wrong. They weren't exaggerating enough. We deployed to Cronus 4, a hive world under Orc invasion. The Greenskins had landed in the northern wastes 6 months prior and were pushing toward the primary hive. Our orders were simple: hold the line, dig in, don't let them advance. The veterans made it sound routine, just another day in the Imperial Guard. For us fresh conscripts, it was the end of the world. My first sight of an orc was from 300 meters away through binoculars. I'd seen the propaganda images, known they were large, but seeing one in person is different. They're massive, 8 feet of muscle and rage wrapped in scrap armor, and there were thousands of them. A green tide rolling across the wasteland toward our trenches, screaming and firing crude weapons that shouldn't work but somehow did. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The veterans noticed my fear. Sergeant Corrin, a man with 30 years of service and scars covering half his face, slapped me upside the head. "Fear's good," he growled. "Keeps you alert. But if you freeze up when they charge, I'll shoot you myself. Can't have cowards breaking the line." He wasn't joking. I'd seen commissars execute soldiers for less. In the Imperial Guard, you advance or you die, sometimes both. The orcs hit our line at dawn. I'll never forget that sound. Thousands of voices screaming, "Wah!" with such conviction, it shook the ground. They came running through artillery fire that should have stopped them. We lost hundreds of orcs in the first minutes. They didn't care, just kept coming. When they reached effective laser gun range, we opened fire. The front rank fell. The second rank trampled them and kept coming. Third rank, fourth, Fifth, they just kept coming. My first kill was random. Point weapon downrange, pull trigger. Someone falls. Might have been my shot. Might have been one of the 100 other guardsmen firing. Doesn't matter. Load next power pack. Fire again. Repeat. Don't think. Don't feel. Just shoot until they stop coming or you're dead. That's the reality of Imperial Guard combat. You're not a soldier. You're a gun with a heartbeat attached. Your job is to point in the right direction until something kills you. They broke through on our left flank. Too many orcs, not enough ammunition. I watched them overrun a squad position 50 meters away. Watched them tear apart guardsmen with their bare hands. Watched them laugh while doing it. The orcs enjoy war. It's fun for them. They're stronger, tougher, and happier than we'll ever be. And we're supposed to beat them through faith and determination. It's insane, but it's all we have. Sergeant Corrin called for bayonets. We were going to countercharge, fix blades to lasguns, and run screaming at creatures twice our size who wanted nothing more than close combat. It was suicide, but the alternative was letting them roll up our line and kill everyone. So we charged. 20 terrified guardsmen against 50 gleeful orcs. I stabbed one through the gut. It laughed and grabbed my bayonet, trying to pull me closer. I put 3 las rounds through its face before it dropped. That was my second, third, and fourth kill, all from one orc that refused to die. We held, barely. Artillery support finally arrived and blew the orc assault to pieces. Of the 20 in our countercharge, 7 survived. I was one of them, covered in blood, both human and Xenos, shaking so hard I couldn't stand. Sergeant Corrin pulled me up. "Good work, trooper. You didn't die. That makes today a victory." That was my introduction to war. Day 1. I had another 4 years and 3 months ahead of me, and I'd never be as innocent again. The offensive stalled after 3 weeks. Both sides dug in for a grinding siege. Our section of the line was 8 kilometers of trenches, bunkers, and razor wire, home for the next 7 months. People think war is constant battle. It's not. It's 99% boredom and 1% terror. You sit in mud, eat rations that taste like cardboard, and wait for someone to try killing you. That waiting is its own special hell. The trenches were disgusting. Mud everywhere. During rain, which was frequent on Cronus, the trenches became rivers. You'd stand waist-deep in water mixed with human waste and decomposing bodies we couldn't recover. Trench foot was epidemic. I watched men's feet rot off while they were still attached. The Medicae would amputate and send you back to the line with a prosthetic. The Imperium doesn't waste resources on medical evacuation unless you're an officer. We had rats, not normal rats. These things were the size of small dogs, mutated by the planet's toxic atmosphere. They'd eat the dead. Sometimes they'd try eating the living. Sleeping in shifts was mandatory. Someone always had to be awake to beat off the rats. I killed more rats than orcs in my first month of trench warfare. Used my entrenching tool as a club. Became quite good at it. Small victories matter when you're living in hell. The food was horrible but regular. 1 ration pack per day. Nutritionally complete, they claimed. Tasted like salted sawdust. Sometimes we'd get fresh supplies. Real bread. Actual protein. Those days felt like holidays. We'd barter for luxuries. A working lighter was worth a week's rations. Low sticks, crude tobacco, could buy almost anything. I traded my family photograph for a bottle of Amasec once. Regretted it immediately, but was too proud to ask for it back. The trenches change you, make you prioritize survival over sentiment. The worst part was the artillery. Both sides would shell each other randomly, sometimes hitting targets, usually just churning mud and killing whoever was unlucky. You'd hear the whistle, dive for cover, hope. The explosions were constant, day and night. After a month, you stopped flinching. After 2 months, you could sleep through them. After 3, you were probably deaf anyway. Half the regiment had hearing damage. Nobody cared. You don't need perfect hearing to point a lasgun. We lost people to everything except combat. Disease killed more than enemy action. Trench fever, pneumonia, infections from wounds that wouldn't heal in the filthy conditions. The commissars would shoot anyone who tried to get invalided out for non-combat injuries, said it was cowardice. So men stayed in the trenches and died slowly rather than quickly. At least quick death was honest. The slow rot of disease was just cruelty. I made friends despite knowing better. Gregor was from a hive world, never seen a real sky before deployment. Yuri was a former ganger, tough and mean but loyal once you earned it. Katya was one of the few. Women in our company could outshoot most men and didn't take shit from anyone. We'd share stories during quiet hours, talk about home, about families we'd never see again, about the lives we'd lost. It was stupid. Attachments are liabilities. When they die, and they will die, it hurts worse. But we were human. We needed something to hold on to, even if it was just each other. Month 4, Gregor took a sniper round through the eye, dead instantly. We buried him in the trench wall. No ceremony, no prayers. Just wrapped him in canvas and stacked him with the others. Yuri died to artillery in month 5, direct hit on his bunker. Never found enough of him to bury. Katya made it to month 6 before trench fever took her. Watched her waste away over 3 weeks. She asked me to shoot her on day 20, I couldn't do it. The commissar did instead. Called it a mercy. Maybe it was. I don't know anymore. Month 7 brought new orders. High Command decided we'd been defensive long enough. Time for an offensive. Push the orcs back. Reclaim lost ground. The veterans laughed bitterly when they heard. Offensives meant dying by the thousands for kilometers of worthless dirt. But orders are orders. The Emperor demands. We obey, or we die. Usually both. The bombardment started 3 days before the assault. Continuous artillery, pounding orc positions. Supposed to soften them up, make the advance easier. All it did was warn them we were coming and churn the ground into impassable craters. But the generals don't ask for input from corporal-level infantry. They just point at maps and order us forward. We're tools. Tools don't need to understand the plan. 0 hour was dawn. Whistles blew. Over the top we went. Thousands of guardsmen climbing out of trenches and running toward enemy lines. The orcs were ready. They opened fire immediately. Heavy stubbers, rockets, crude cannons that fired scrap metal. The first wave was decimated in seconds. Hundreds dead before we'd advanced 10 meters. We climbed over their bodies and kept going. That's the Imperial Guard doctrine. Advance until you win or run out of men. We have more men than most enemies have bullets. I made it 50 meters before the soldier next to me exploded. Took a rocket to the chest. Painted me in gore. I kept running. Couldn't stop. Stopping meant dying. Had to reach the orc line. Had to close the distance where laser guns worked better. Had to survive somehow. My brain switched off. Pure survival instinct. Don't think. Don't feel. Just run and pray the Emperor is watching. He's not. But you pray anyway. We hit the orc trenches, and it became slaughter. Close quarters combat. Bayonets. Knives. Entrenching tools, bare hands. The orcs were stronger, but we had numbers. For every guardsman they killed, 3 more stabbed them from different directions. It was brutal, savage, nothing glorious about it. Just desperate men trying to kill things before being killed. I lost my laser gun in the first minutes. Used my knife, my hands, my teeth at one point. Survival isn't clean. The orcs broke after 2 hours, retreated back to their secondary positions. We'd won, claimed 300 meters of cratered wasteland, at the cost of 4,000 guardsmen. The commissars called it a glorious victory, a triumph of Imperial will over Xenos savagery. The survivors knew better. We'd traded lives for dirt. In a week, the orcs would counterattack and we'd lose it all again. That's how this war worked. Back and forth, bleeding each other over ground that didn't matter. Nobody won. We just died slower or faster. I found Sergeant Corrin's body in the orc trenches. He'd killed 6 greenskins before they got him. His face still had that stubborn determination. Even in death, he looked ready to fight. I took his dog tags and combat knife. Figured he'd want someone to remember he existed. Sent the tags to command. Kept the knife. It had killed more enemies than most guardsmen ever would. Felt right to keep it in the fight. That night, I counted survivors from my original company. We'd deployed with 200. After 7 months, 19 remained. The rest were dead, missing, or invalided out. Fresh conscripts arrived to fill the gaps. Young kids who looked like I had 7 months ago. Scared, hopeful, stupid enough to think they'd survive. I didn't have the heart to tell them the truth. They'd learn soon enough. The Eastern Fringe taught everyone the same lesson eventually. The only way out is death. Everything else is just delays. Year 2 brought a change. The orcs launched a massive wah from the northern wastes, millions of greenskins pouring south. Our regiment, already depleted, couldn't hold. High Command sent reinforcements, a full chapter of Space Marines, Ultramarines in their blue power armor. I'd never seen Astartes before. They're terrifying even when they're on your side. They were giants, 8 feet of gene-enhanced muscle in ceramite armor. They moved like predators, spoke with voices that commanded instant obedience. A single Ultramarine was worth 100 of us. They knew it. We knew it. The unspoken hierarchy was clear. They were heroes, legends, the Emperor's chosen. We were meat shields. Our job was to die so they didn't have to waste ammunition. Not officially stated, but everyone understood. The combined offensive was brutal efficiency. The Ultramarines would identify targets. We'd advance and draw fire. They'd hit from unexpected angles and slaughter everything. The tactic worked. We reclaimed territory in weeks that had taken months to lose. But the cost was heavy on our side. The Astartes had 3 casualties. We had 3,000. Nobody in command cared. Guardsmen were replaceable. Space Marines were precious resources. Do the math. I watched an Ultramarine sergeant kill 100 orcs in maybe 5 minutes. His bolter never stopped firing. Each shot perfectly placed. Each target eliminated. When he ran out of ammunition, he drew a chainsword and waded into melee. Cut through greenskins like they were nothing. It was beautiful and horrifying. We're supposed to be humanity's defenders. But watching that, I realized we're not. They are. We're just the buffer. The expendable mass that dies while the real warriors do the actual fighting. One of the Ultramarines talked to me. Brother Sergeant Marius. He asked about morale, about how regular humans handle this kind of warfare. I was honest, told him we're terrified every moment, that we know we're going to die, that the only thing keeping us going is fear of commissars and hope that our deaths mean something. He listened without judgment. Then he said something I'll never forget. Your sacrifice is noted. The Emperor values your service. It was meant to be comforting. It wasn't. Just confirmation that my death was expected. Valued even, but still inevitable. The Ultramarines left after 6 weeks. Their part of the campaign was complete. They'd broken the Orc offensive and moved on to the next war zone. We stayed. Of course we stayed. This was our war, our forever. The grinding siege resumed. The Orcs regrouped. We bled each other in trenches and assaults and counter-assaults. The cycle continued, but something had changed in me. Seeing the Astartes made me realize how insignificant we were, how utterly disposable. The Imperial propaganda says every soldier matters. It's a lie. We're ammunition, nothing more. I started keeping a journal, against regulations, but I didn't care anymore. Wrote about the people who died, the battles we fought, the pointlessness of it all. Maybe someone would find it after I died. Maybe they'd understand what it was really like. Not the propaganda version, not the glorious tales of Imperial valor, just the truth. The mud and blood and screaming and dying. The reality of being a guardsman, the horror of being expendable and knowing it. My company got fresh conscripts again, this time from a hive world. They'd never seen open sky, found the wasteland terrifying and beautiful simultaneously. I was assigned to train them, teach them how to survive. I tried, told them the tricks, how to spot snipers, how to dig proper trenches, how to clean laser guns in the field, how to make ration packs slightly less disgusting. Small things, but I couldn't tell them the truth. Couldn't say that no amount of training would save them, that they'd be dead in weeks or months, that the only real lesson was accepting death. That would break morale. Broken morale got you shot, so I lied, gave them hope, sent them to their deaths with smiles. Year 3 brought something worse than orcs, a chaos cult uprising in the hive city we'd been defending. Traitors within, Imperial citizens corrupted by the ruinous powers. They sabotaged supplies, assassinated officers, summoned actual daemons. The war became three-sided. Orcs, chaos, loyalists. Hell erupted on Cronus 4 and we were in the middle of it. Fighting chaos cultists was different from fighting orcs. The greenskins were straightforward, loud, obvious. You could see them coming. Cultists were insidious. They looked human. Could be anyone. Your squad mate, your commander, the medica treating your wounds. Trust evaporated. Paranoia became survival trait. The commissars executed anyone suspected of corruption. Guilty or not didn't matter. Can't risk chaos infections spreading. Better to kill 100 innocents than let one traitor live. I saw my first demon in year 3, month 4, a thing that shouldn't exist. Multiple limbs, faces that shifted, colors that hurt to perceive. It killed an entire platoon in minutes. Our laser guns did nothing. The thing just laughed as we fired, laughed with too many mouths, only stopped when a sanctioned psyker burned it with warp fire. The psyker died from the effort. Brain hemorrhage. Small price for killing one demon, but there were more, always more. The Inquisition arrived, killed anyone who'd seen demons, said we were corrupted by exposure, tainted, dangerous. Half my regiment was executed, not for heresy, not for cowardice, for being in the wrong place when the warp bled through. I survived because I'd been on patrol when they came through. Pure luck. When I returned, my entire company was gone. Bodies burned, records expunged, like they'd never existed. That's Imperial justice. That's the reward for service. I broke somewhere around month 6. Can't pinpoint the exact moment. Just woke up one morning and realized I didn't care anymore. Didn't care about surviving. Didn't care about duty, didn't care about the Emperor or the Imperium or anything. I was hollow, going through the motions, point gun, pull trigger, repeat, no fear, no hope, just empty function. The commissar noticed, called me to his tent, expected execution. Instead, he promoted me, said lack of emotion made me effective, that I was adapting properly to extended service. My breakdown was considered a success. Made sergeant at 3 years, 9 months, led a squad of fresh conscripts, kids who still had light in their eyes, still believed the propaganda. I envied them, couldn't remember what belief felt like, just tried to keep them alive as long as possible. Failed mostly. Lost 3 in the first week, 5 more the next month. Replacements kept coming. I stopped learning their names. Didn't matter. They'd be dead soon. Why make it personal? Got a letter from home. Elena had married someone else, a man with a medical exemption from service. They had 2 children. She was happy. She'd moved on. I felt nothing. Couldn't even be angry. She'd done the smart thing. I was a ghost, a walking dead man on extended deployment. Building a life around me would be stupid. I wrote back. Told her I was happy for her. Meant it. She deserved better than a broken soldier who'd never come home. If I survived this war, which I wouldn't. I wouldn't be the person she'd loved. That person died in year 1, maybe even during transport. The war on Cronus 4 ended in year 4, not because anyone won, because there was nothing left worth fighting over. The hive cities were rubble, the population 90% dead, the planet's infrastructure destroyed. High Command declared victory and evacuated essential personnel. The rest of us were transferred, loaded onto transports and shipped to the next war zone. New planet, new enemy, same war. It never ends. The Imperium has 10,000 fronts. When one closes, another opens. We just move from meat grinder to meat grinder until we're used up. 4 years, 3 months, 17 days. I'm writing this in a transport ship heading to my next deployment. Tyrannid invasion on an agri-world. They say it's a suicide mission. Every mission is a suicide mission. The only question is how long you survive. I've beaten the odds so far. Can't last forever. Eventually, the statistics catch up. Eventually, I'll be another casualty report. Another number in an endless war. People back home think we're heroes. The propaganda shows us as noble warriors defending humanity, standing against the darkness. Glorious servants of the Emperor. It's all lies. We're not heroes. We're victims, conscripted against our will, sent to die for causes we don't understand in wars that don't end. The only difference between us and the enemies we fight is which master we serve. Orcs serve their gods. Chaos serves theirs. We serve ours. Everyone's a slave to something. The Imperial Guard breaks you systematically, strips away your identity, your hopes, your humanity, turns you into a weapon, a tool, a thing that follows orders and dies when told. Some people think that's noble, that subordinating yourself completely to the Imperium is the highest form of service. Maybe they're right. I don't know anymore. I've forgotten what having an opinion feels like. Just follow orders, fire weapon, survive if possible, die if necessary. That's all there is. I think about the farm sometimes. Try to remember what it felt like to work soil, to grow things instead of destroy them, to build instead of kill. The memories are fading, getting harder to access. Soon they'll be gone completely, and I'll be nothing but a soldier. No past, no future, just an eternal present of war and death. Maybe that's better. Remembering what you lost makes it hurt worse. Better to forget, better to be empty, easier to function when you don't care. The new conscripts ask me questions sometimes. How do you survive? How do you cope? How do you stay sane? I tell them you don't. Survival is luck. Coping is lying to yourself. Sanity is weakness that gets you killed. The only way to last in the Imperial Guard is to become something that doesn't need sanity, something that accepts death so completely that living becomes the afterthought. They don't understand. They will eventually, if they survive long enough. Most won't. If I could go back and tell my younger self anything, I don't know what I'd say. Don't go. Dodge the draft. That would just get family killed and someone else would take my place. Fight harder. I've fought as hard as possible. There's no fighting hard enough to change the outcome. Accept it faster. Maybe. Knowing from the start that you're doomed might make it easier. Or it might break you immediately. I don't know. There are no good answers in the 41st millennium. The Emperor protects. That's what they tell us. What we're supposed to believe. I've seen no evidence of it. The Emperor, if he's still conscious on that throne, doesn't notice people like me. We're too small, too insignificant. 10 billion guardsmen across the galaxy, dying by the millions every day. Why would a god care about one more corporal on one more transport to one more hopeless battle? We don't matter. Never did, never will. We're just numbers in a ledger. Acceptable losses in an acceptable war. But I keep going, keep following orders, keep fighting and killing and surviving against all odds. Not because I believe, not because I have hope, but because stopping means dying. And something in me still rejects that. Some stubborn animal instinct that won't quit. Maybe it's muscle memory. Maybe it's cowardice. Maybe I'm already dead and just haven't realized it yet. Doesn't matter. Tomorrow I'll wake up, load my laser gun, fix my bayonet, and march toward whatever hell they've assigned me to, because that's what guardsmen do. We march, we fight, we die, and the war continues without us. That's the reality of being an Imperial Guard soldier. Not glory, not honor, just grinding, soul-crushing, endless war, and we're expected to smile and call it service. The Emperor protects, but he doesn't protect us.